The killing of at least 5 of the 13 people dead in shootings this weekend has been linked to drugs. 5 people were shot dead in Galvindale in Gqeberha last night. The provincial anti-gang unit is on the hunt for the perpetrators. Police say that just before midnight, an unknown number of gunmen wearing balaclavas entered the venue. Shots were fired from the outside before the gunmen entered. 3 men and 2 women were killed. It was alleged that the house concerned was a drug post. Now, there were also reported incidents in Eldorado Park in Westbury. Anti-drug activist Dereleen James speaks to us now about the drug-related crime in these communities. Dereleen, thank you so much for making time for us. Do you have any information about what happened to these 3 young men? Because we are told that they were killed during a drive-by shooting. What information do you have for us?
At this moment, I will just be speculating if I must share information on actually what occurred. But what we do know that 3 young men, because they're actually from my community in Eldorado Park, were gunned down, brutally gunned down in broad daylight in Westbury on Friday. And the 4th person was gunned down, I think, hours later. So 4 people in Westbury. We also then saw that shooting coming over to Eldorado Park where 3 other people were shot. 2 not fatal. Saturday morning, we woke up to someone also just laying in the park with his face gone. So that's all we know right now. But we do know that everyone has been shot in their faces. And we do know that this has been ongoing between Eldorado Park and Westbury for the longest time ever.
Sure. I mean, this raises what seems to be a daily reality for the residents in Eldorado Park. What needs to be done, Dereleen, to ensure that there's safety in these communities?
I think for now we've exhausted all avenues with government. We've had several meetings with him. You've seen Bekitele, you've seen the high entourage of boots on the ground always coming into these communities, and there's still no end result in all of this. I do, however, feel that we need to apply a level of intelligence in actually understanding what has given rise to the ongoing gang killings and why it cannot come to an end. If you look at the people that are being gunned down, it is people from families that have had previous murders within their families. It is almost as if though families are taking on the faces of the victims as well as the perpetrators, then being affiliated to gangs. So the entire community almost is affiliated with some gang or the other because there's been absolutely no justice, no reconciliation. There's been nothing for families to actually feel that they have closure, when their loved ones passed on. No one gets arrested and no one gets sentenced.
Yeah. I mean, we've had imbizos after imbizos, even in areas like Eldorado Park. As you indicate, Bekitele has been there countless times. What is it that's making it difficult for even their intervention and strategies to be implemented?
I think for starters, it is lack of understanding of where it actually stems from. I'm gonna keep saying this, lack of intelligence-driven operations. There's so much information that gives us leads as to where the next shooting is going to happen, where the next killing is going to happen. We have highlighted the hotspots to government, to SAPS in particular. So on several occasions, we have said to them, we have gotten information, this is where it's going to go down, and it just keeps falling on deaf ears. I think the approach that they're taking is, we know best, we know more, and simply not listening to the information that is being forthcoming from the community.
Do you think the problem here is more about the drugs in the communities? Is it the lack of the rule of law, or is it simply just the lack of law enforcement?
It is lack of rule of law, definitely. It is lack of law enforcement. It is lack of resources. It is just everyone working on the same thing. There's no actual strategy happening. Also, the lack of opportunities, poverty in our community, the high unemployment rate. The situation in our communities is dire, and you find now that this is actually spilling over to our schools, where we are being told by principals that, my school is territorial. On the one end, I have grade 10s belonging to this particular gang and the grade 11s belonging to that particular gang. So there's just no there's no will, and for my side, there's no ability. Government just doesn't have the ability to address the ongoing gang killings in Westbury and Eldorado Park. It has been going on for decades, and today we are still talking about it. And to be quite honest, Clement, I am tired of talking to myself and complaining about what's happening in our communities without keeping the relevant people responsible and accountable for failing to fulfill their mandate.
What is this doing to the young people that are growing up in Eldorado Park? I mean, people who are going to primary school and they are seeing these, brutal scenes of violence. I mean, that's not only traumatizing for the adults in the communities, but that's damaging for the kids who are growing up and seeing this regular occurrence.
Absolutely. It was one of the things that we actually highlighted to the Department of Social Development. Yes, there are the gang killings. Yes, sometimes you find that it is indeed a drug dealer or it is indeed a gang member that is being gunned down. But at the end of the day, the trauma that our community is left with being exposed to this, there's no psychosocial support for our youngsters. You find children, the other day I was horrified when I saw a little girl walk towards the window of a vehicle where there was a dead body lying. And the fact that these crimes are happening in broad daylight, there's no proper scene control, where we are actually keeping away our children from seeing this. At this point, it's just open to everyone, and everyone looks over all of these dead bodies. People are traumatized. The community needs sort of an intervention in terms of what they have witnessed and experienced over the last couple of years. And definitely we need to start looking at other ways of addressing this, something similar that I said, like a truth and reconciliation, period that needs to start, where people can start, finding ways of actually getting out all the anger and all the bitterness that they have been building up over the years.
And when you have proposed this to the authorities which you have interacted with in the past, is there appetite for it?
Well, at this point, a couple of weeks ago, I did speak to the Provincial Commissioner General Mawela about this, and I said, you know what, this is a lot deeper than what meets the eye, and I think it's time that we bring in all of these families of these victims and we sit them down and start working back and find where did we actually go wrong. He did give me an indication that he will be looking into it, but I haven't heard from them since. We probably have to follow up again.
Okay, so I see now that the police in Gauteng say they've deployed extra resources, including the anti-gang unit, following the shootings we were discussing on Friday. Have you seen their presence in the community, and what impact can this intervention have?
Clement, we have had various units deployed to both communities. Whether they are there or not, what we have seen, the reality is that the killings are continuing. The guns on the streets are still there. There's no, we had a special unit in Eldorado Park, I must be honest, that yielded that there were many successes when that operation was there in terms of eradicating drugs and doing raids. There were many successes that yielded from that operation. But you find in Westbury that the cops are standing in the one street, and in the next street there's shooting continuing. So I'm not sure where we're missing it, because despite SAP's presence, the shooting continues.
Sure. Dereleen James, anti-drug activist, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with all your efforts together with other communities to try and fight the scourge of drug abuse, but also of this violence.